Boogie Slide guitar music comes on, well, a little bit after 5. Today, on a Trash It Tuesday, and you're going to probably know why I'm going to say that here in a few minutes. On that, as we come to you on the Evil FB Network and Rumble, check us out, subscribe, type in Newswire on Rumble. I even think we're fired off on the old YouTube Rooney of that. We're irritating those guys again. I don't know how we're staying on there. That's about the only thing that's been going right. This will be an interesting show again. As I said, Trash It Tuesday, as we work on seeing why the equipment doesn't want to work right again. It's again, you ever run through one of those streaks? Seems like everything you touch, everything you do just turns to total S. Oh, man. Just got came in here, thought I was going to be early at 3:45, which has been the earliest I've ever gotten in here in probably the past couple of weeks. Went in to turn on my main deal to get the broadcast out, and it's saying, well, you got to sign in, and I got to go through this, and then it won't give me that. My phone was dead or locked out. I couldn't get it to her. It hadn't been working since this morning. Finally got the phone partially working. Was able to finally get to some of this complicated. I mean, technology's great, and I'm not saying there's not good aspects to it. But man, some of the rudimentary, absolute stupid stuff. How this stuff, I've always said this, electronics got a mind of their own. And with this artificial intelligence and everything, I heard something about that the other day. As rudimentary still as artificial intelligence is right now, it's like 20 billion times more efficient than it was just 10 years ago. So if they're getting the orders wrong at McDonald's or Mickey D's or wherever the hell or this and that is going wrong, just in 10 years, it's jumped that far, which things do. When you first start out with this stuff, I mean, the curve slumps up and then you start hitting this wall or where things get more difficult. But that's kind of amazing of how we got to this point and shows how fast it really moves. But man, some of this stuff just will absolutely make your head spin on some of that. Why we're going to call it Trash It Tuesday. A couple things. We've been down we've obviously been to the Board of Supervisors this morning. And we had that little fiasco going on. I don't even know how they turned out on the budget. Because I had to make my public comments and then roll out of there, but I was trying to get the equipment to work, possibly. See if that does anything. Helps when things are plugged in. But they're down there, and I'm curious to see. We might even just run through it for the first time for me, too. Curious to see how and what they've passed the budget. I've been hollering a lot about opening the jails and having it funded and doing that. So we'll see if the request I have been making for a few years now to get the Indio jail open, I believe there's potentially good news on Chuckawalla. I believe Sheriff Chad's willing to take it over the Chuckawalla State Prison that Newsom wants to close in November. Perfectly good. It's not a piece of ass like Norco. Norco Women's Prison needed to be closed down 20 years ago. It was, I don't think anybody, well, there might be somebody. Everybody's acknowledged Norco Women's Prison down there that's needed to have been closed for a long time. They're not going to build a new one, and we have all that. This is the whole thing about this Prop 47 reform that, Sheriff Chad and others have got on the ballot, Walmart, Target. And this is why they're so apoplectic up there. Big campaign contributors like Walmart and Target and many others, stepping down the line, said, we gave you a chance. You said this stuff was all going to work. We're going broke. We can't have people just walking out the store with merchandise they're not paying for. Eventually, we're either going to close or go bankrupt. So they got with like Hestron and Chad and Jason Anderson, Todd Spitzer, Don Brown, a lot of others, the guy up in Yale. Most of your sheriffs and district attorneys signed on to it, got the signatures, got it on the ballot. Now we're running the whole poison pill. They're saying, they're trying to do everything. Because there's a faction, enough of a faction so far, up in the state legislature that wants every state prison closed down. They don't just want a few. They don't want just Chuckawalla and whatever the other 2 or 3. They're not even liking San Quentin being turned from a death row prison to a country club for criminals. They want them closed. They want no punishment. Reggie Jones Sawyer, Isaac Brown, Corey Jackson, Nancy Skinner, Rivas, the Speaker of the Assembly. They want prison. They don't want no punishment. So this is the crux of the matter that's coming down. And Newsom's in between a rock and a hard place. So are a few of the others. They've taken the money. Newsom's taken the most of it as an individual. He's got people hollering at him on all sides of this issue now. No matter which way he chooses to go, he loses. He's put himself in the ultimate box. That's all of a sudden why you heard the Gavin Newsom, we're going to roll him in at the convention for president, is just went. You don't see him out on the national trail. You don't see him debating Ron DeSantis, where that was a disaster. That pretty much ended it anyway. When DeSantis cleaned his clock, and then little Jenny Poo had to drag him off the stage. Little wifey over there. All you ladies that think just Gavin Newsom's the ish, and you get your little panties all wet, and when you see Gavin Newsom, he's a sissy boy. But looking at this, I got a chuckle. Because eventually you knew something like this, you couldn't predict exactly this issue. Although this one would be, a number one of it. Just the stuff here. But this Prop 47 reform has really got them in a pickle. They were able to duck it what was it, 2020. We had it on the ballot 4 years ago. Mike Hestron, DA out here in Riverside County, was actually very instrumental in trying to get the Prop 47 reform, but they were powerful enough. They got it shot down like they got 47 passed. So they got it shot down. Things deteriorated worse in 4 years, and now the majority of Californians have had enough of it. So, and I'm going to play school board member in Hemet, Ken Prado, down at the Board of Supervisors here, maybe when we join KMET, when we get to that. But this is the thing, and I want to see the budget. Maybe we'll get into tomorrow more of the nuts and bolts and how everything passed. What? That's why I wanted to make sure there was funding for opening the Indio jail full. So even if we can't do that, because there's two things going to happen. If they don't allow Riverside County and Sheriff Chad to take over Chuckawalla, and they just basically, let's say the worst case scenario. Let's say that doesn't happen. Then Chuckawalla prison down in Blythe closes. They should have enough personnel to staff the Indio jail fully. All 1,600 beds ready to go. Misdemeanor crimes, shoplifting, whatever. We got jail space for you. Same with the treatment plan thing. You got two choices. You want to go to jail or you want to go to the treatment facility. They still have some tools to do that. Not as many after November, hopefully, and I think there's darn good odds of it. They will have more tools, but we have to be prepared. We have to hit the ground running. We have to have it in place. There's no sense in arresting them like they're doing now if there's no space, jails. If there's no threat that you will be, you either want to do jail or prison time, or do you want to see if you can clean up your act? That's my main thing. I wanted the Riverside County Board of Supervisors to have that money for the Benoit jail. And we're calling them jails. They're not correctional facilities. They're not detention centers. They're jails. Like I said, we can still call it the Blythe jail because they got two. They got a regular county jail and they got the Chuckawalla State Prison. We're going to call it the Larry D. Jail. We're going to call it the Bird Center Jail. The Robert Presley, Bobby D. or Bobby P. Jail. End of story. No pussyfooting around the language or none of that other stuff. We got to pull the pendulum back. The pendulum's been on tilt stupid for far too long, especially in California. Of course, that has spread across the other 57 states, as Obama has said. And it will continue to do that until we knock it off. We got to stop pussyfooting around the language, or we've got to drop everything because one person out of 8 billion on planet Earth, feelings may be hurt or they're getting upset. That just ain't happening anymore. No how, no way. It's not that we go in. Sometimes things are uncomfortable. Bad things happen. Sometimes you got to have bad things happen ultimately to spin it around to do the greater good and just so everybody can live a happy, contented life like everybody wants. You can't wish it. You really can't mandate it. In fact, the more you try to mandate it, or the more you try to pass a law, or think this program's going to help, or this is going to save you, it may temporarily do that, but in the end, it's going to make it worse. It's kind of like taking medicine or pills or going to the doctor. All that stuff is temporary fixes. If your body doesn't heal itself, as old Poppy Bush says, you're in deep doo-doo. Now, that stuff can help temporarily or get you through, and hopefully it does, or makes you better. And then, get your immune system and your body back in shape, and you're good to go. But if you prescription drugs by a doctor work really no different than the fentanyl and all the crap the dopers and the vagrants take. If you just keep cramming it down, it's eventually going to kill you. So you got to have a balance in everything. In order to make things work. I didn't design all this stuff. Whatever you believe, God or Mother Nature, the stars, or whatever the hell. That's just the reality of the situation. And if things are going wrong, like I said, one of the most sagest advice I ever got was somebody told me, man, when things are going chaotic and everything's fouled up, go look in the mirror, because that's where 98.7% of it's coming. And that's what I've talked about. These guys, George Carlin said it in one of his great comedy routines. These people didn't get elected. They didn't fly in alien ships from Mars. They're our neighbors in our community, in our country, our state, whatever. We elected them. They are a reflection of us. Maybe not 100%, but I mean, you take any political body, they're a reflection of that community, of that county, of that state, of that nation. So even though you might not have voted for the person or whatever, it's still and that's really the only piece of real democracy we have in the United States is our election system. Everything else for the law, we are a representative republic. And we've seen how that democracy thing has worked out.
30 seconds.
Of that. Sean, can you run some sort of replay after I run the commercial? I'm going to do it about 10 minutes, about 5:50.
Some sort of a replay?
Yes, anything, yeah. I just got to duck out about 10 minutes early.
All right.
So I was just giving you the warning sign. I didn't have time to make a tape. Verily got.
All right, here we go.
Here you go.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Views expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMBC, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Bars, that funky slide guitar music comes in every Monday through Friday. Live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the evil FB network and Rumble. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire on Rumble. Even think we're on YouTube. This got to be a world's record. The only thing that's been going right, at least that I can remember here lately, is I don't know. We're just like on a streak on YouTube. They ain't throwed us off. That's eerie. That's eerie. The one thing that always used to go wrong is going right. Everything that used to go right is just blown to smithereens in my world. But hey, we'll soldier through it. You're getting one thing about this when you look back at it and in the annals of history. You say, hey, you get a greater understanding of it, even though in the moment you might not understand why things are happening as they are, and you might think, hey, this is it. But, after you go through it a while and look at it, and that one of the great things about aging is you get to reflect on that, and you've been through this, and you think you reflect back and you understand, even though you didn't see it then, you get a better understanding of how and why things happened, and you just hopefully learn from that and not repeat those mistakes of the past and stuff like that. But again, it's like everything. We started off talking about the technology and all that, and how one thing, and like I said, for those of you joining us in the Met, 10 years ago, when artificial intelligence, whatever level it was at, today, even as you go to McDonald's and get your order wrong or stuff, it's 20 billion times more efficient than it was just 10 years ago. That's kind of an eerie thought that it's went that far. Of course, when you're at the bottom and you're ramping up, it goes that somebody said, oh, we expect it to go like that. I don't think, knock on wood, I don't think it's going to make that big a leap in the next 10 years, because like anything else, like if you're going 100 mile an hour and you want to go 200 mile an hour, it doesn't take double the horsepower, it takes 4 times, goes up exponentially, or the square of the speed, however you want to say it. So as you increasingly go faster, to keep going faster, you've got to have more and more and more and more horsepower to move it. Same with this, artificial technology, or that the electronics and all the chips and the Silicon Valley stuff and all the goody goodies that are in there. It's going to take longer and bigger technological leaps to make it work. So I imagine that curve. We're in that really ramped up phase, but it's gotten pretty good. We're probably going to be starting on that leveling off phase. But down at the County Board of Supervisors, again, we went through the budget and that. They made the final passage, and I don't exactly know how it went. Of course, I've said, detail it. You can look back in the first part of the show on Newswire on that and see what we had to say on that. But one thing that struck me, and hopefully I'm going to try and find it here fairly quickly, of that, make sure we don't get the Espanol. Oh. See, they got to do tricky stuff on you. You got to watch these guys like a freaking hawk. So I'm going to get that. First, I'm going to start with Ken Prado. 2 years ago, he was elected to the Hemet School Board. Of course, he was down there speaking not as a school board member, but as a private citizen. But I was glad to support Ken Prado, and he was one of the ones I did endorse in 2022, I think, when he ran. But he stood up to the plate, and we're going to get to that here in a sec. But his comments were very poignant to the subject. He was talking about 47 and what was going on and all the challenges we talked about in the first place of that, and why Newsom is in a big pickle over
Us in the room. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You ready to start, or can I get my
Yes.
time back? Because I was asking a question.
Since he's,
Can you restart his time, please?
since he's a school board member, he knows how this stuff works.
Oh, just go back to 2 minutes. Yeah, let's start over. All right, there you go.
Awesome. Good afternoon, board. My name is Kenneth Prado, and I'm a current governing board trustee for Hemet Unified School District. The reason I bring this up is because my comments today do not reflect the board as a whole, but my own as a community member and also a voter within Riverside County. I only mention this because as a school board trustee, I do understand that the ins and outs of the day-to-day operation of governing your community and also the county. But in regards to school boards, we address those of students, their education, and their families' well-being. As you well know, there is an upcoming proposition that has collected close to over 1 million, 500,000 signatures, close to 600,000. And this act is called, or proposition is called Proposition 20. And as an individual that was brought up by a woman Marine, she always taught me to be very proactive, looking down the road of things that come and happen to be. And I know that we do have a public safety issue in the state of California. I believe everybody behind me can truly agree that we live in a 24-hour criminal activity environment and no one is being held accountable. Finances are not put into public safety. And also as a California resident under the California Constitution, Article 1, Section 28, we have a right to public safety. And so what Proposition 20 will do will repeal 3 of the issues with Prop 47, which took felonies and dropped them down to misdemeanors, which our county jails are no longer able to issue housing for them. And so what that has done is put drug offenders, it has also put shoplifting that was 250 up to 950 back onto the streets. And when in regards to that, when there is no deterrent from criminal activity and there's adults that you address, have nothing holding over their head for their actions, it rolls down into the school district. And I know Mr. Gutierrez, as my representative in the city of Hemet, I know you're very familiar with Moreno Valley and the law case of that student that was bullied and murdered. That is a direct result. So be proactive in what's about to happen.
That last bit, and it was hard to hear, but he said be proactive. He brought up the Diego Stoltz death at the school. I don't know, because I know Extian was a teacher for a long time, about 10 or 12 years, special ed teacher actually, in Moreno Valley Unified School District. Before he was mayor, before he was councilman, and during that time, and I don't know, somewhere in there he quit, or I don't know, so he was no longer employed at MVUSD, let's put it that way. My understanding of it. But what Mr. Prado is pointing out is you should know Extian Gutierrez better than anybody, or as least as well as anybody sitting up there on that dais. You've been in on the ins and outs of this. Like I told all of you, it's time. Well, you'll hear that in a second. But it's time for we the people to demand our representatives represent us. No longer are we going to tolerate the stuff Mr. Prado said. And the only thing I would disagree with him is about we do have bed space in Riverside County in our jails. We're just not utilizing it. But everything else, he was 100% accurate on. And that school board, or I mean that county board of supervisors, well, school boards too. They need to hear that. They need to hear it loud. They need to hear it often. They need to hear it every meeting. They need to hear it from every faction of this community. Young, old, black, white, male, female. That's the only way these things change. They do not change if you sit on your hands. For any reason. But then, guess who rolls up to the microphone and says this as we stroll to the microphone.
Good morning, Roy.
Mr. Prado put it much better than I probably will, because he's probably a better person than I am. But let me express this in my 6th grade educated ditch bank Okie from Edgemont way. Quit pussyfooting around the issues. As he said, California Constitution says the people of this state declared public safety is your #1 priority, and you're blowing it. You're watch the budget. You know what you're doing. You know how we've done this, and it's not 100% you, but practically all of you guys. You've made our communities unsafe. We all know it. You won't do it. You don't have the guts to do it. It's about time we start acting like we should. It's about the 4 of you men should start acting like men. We have had enough. We want our communities back. We want to feel safe in our communities. We want our kids to go to school not under threats. We want our, if it's good enough for the Blythe jail, let's call it the Larry D., Bobby P., Bird Center, Johnny J. jails. Let's quit with the goofy language and stuff that's trying to sugarcoat everything. It ain't happening anymore. I only got a few seconds and I ain't gonna be able to hear the budget. So you know what's on the jails. It better be fully funded. I want no excuses. We want no excuses. Ever again. This has got to stop. It will stop. One way or the other. We ain't going with Corey Jackson or Isaac Bryan or Gavin Newsom or any of this other nonsense we've been putting up with. It will stop.
Next speaker.
Yes, it will.
Next speaker, please.
Is Caroline?
It's going to stop. It just depends how. And I'm not advocating any violence or anything illegal. But we went through this in 2020. We've been through it before. Watts riots, Rodney King. The most dangerous living creature on earth. And I don't care what species they are or what you identify as. I don't care if it's an ant or a grizzly bear or anything in between. The most dangerous living thing is somebody that doesn't have anything to lose or perceives they don't have anything to lose. Because they're just going to let it rip. So if they keep this up in our communities, they keep rolling this stuff out, like with what the other said. Shelby Bunch was up there and her crowd about the elections. And they keep blowing off the evidence. They keep doing the times just like they're going to be doing at the Crime Syndicate and the Clown Show over there in Moreno Valley. We're going to schedule meetings on top. We're going to cut your time because it's too much of an inconvenience for the public employees that are making $500,000 a year and the supervisors that are making $250K plus a year. And I'm talking total compensation packages You want us to roll it out? We're going to roll it out. It's your choice to fix it or not. You're our representatives. You got the vote. We entrusted you in your judgment. To fix this stuff, to make our communities work. I had a discussion again, and it was a friendly discussion. I had to go to the store. They're out in front of the Smart and Fine, all saying, "Oh, union guys saying, Smart and Final's doing this and that." The first question I asked them, I said, "You know what in the public sector of the labor, do you know what percentage?" Those of you that listen to the show know what I'm going to say. In the late 50s, early 60s, you know what percentage of the U.S. labor market was unionized? They had no idea. Told them 35%. Said, "What do you guess the private sector union representative?" And I said, "What do you think the public sector union was?" Like 0.1%. The only until 1974 when California went, the only state in the union was Minnesota that had public employees that were unionized. Exactly against Franklin Roosevelt, father of the New Deal, and George Meany, the first AFL-CIO president, said, "Do not let public sector unions unionize. It will ruin everything." I said, "What do you think it is today?" "Well, I don't know, 2%. You know what? Public sector of our deal is 4%. They are 2-to-1 over you." I said, "That's where the crux of the problem is. No matter what you think Smart and Final or any other company is doing or not doing. And I'm sure there's companies with bad working conditions. But I'm talking overall. I went through it. I said, I did my little education deal. I said, go back and look at from 1958 to 74. We had 8 years of Pat Brown, Democrat, as governor. 8 years of Ronald Reagan. Said we built the finest education system, roads, water, cheap electricity, everything. Probably made California the shining spot of opportunity in the world. 74, when Moonbeam, Pat Brown's son, Jerry Brown Jr., became governor. We'll run through the whole rendition. Again, of Assemblyman Dick Barnes, 1972, and cops and firefighters. Like I said, that's when California unionized public sector workers, and we went in the toilet since that day. That's where the problem lies. So we'll get into this more tomorrow. As I said, I didn't have time to make a little ending tape, so Sean's going to play some sort of replay after I roll the commercial here in a few seconds. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to go to the school board first. Then I'm going to ease over to the city council meeting, and I'm going to see what they're going to say. It should be fun. We'll cover it all tomorrow with the style and grace and effervescence as only I can. Take it away, Sean, after the commercial. Doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created. for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, and the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota and Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. It ain't such a great idea.